Bangladesh, a Muslim country located in the South Asian subcontinent and adjacent to India, became independent from Pakistan in 1971. War damage had brought on difficulties for its public constructions. Nevertheless, Bangladesh people still live in difficult circumstances. Although economic takeoff happened in 2010s, with the government beginning to carry out public constructions actively, dim streetlights, potholes, and unused traffic signals are still parts of Bangladesh's daily life in the capital Dhaka until now. Bangladesh has the 8th largest population and the 45th largest GDP around the globe. Nonetheless, when the GDP converts to GDP per capita, it falls to the 149th largest due to the huge population. Besides, the inconvenience of transportation has enlarged the gap between urban and rural areas. Not having adequate accommodations to live or clean food to consume, those who live in the village were constantly in the state of lack of supplies. Even if they keep an aggressive mind and knowing that only a small amount of money can change their destiny, they weren't given any opportunities. While all the governments and citizens had given up, there's one person who consistently tries new systems and brand new concepts with an eye to eliminate poverty in Bangladesh. This person is Muhammad Yunus. After Muhammad Yunus received his PhD in economics from the United States in 1969, he returned to Bangladesh to teach. During his teaching, Yunus found out that as far as the poor is concerned, they need only a relatively small amount of loan to maintain their basic life and obtain capital for small businesses. In 1976, Yunus hence started to do the research concerning microcredit at Chittagong University. 3 years later, under the system of the Central Bank of Bangladesh, a small area experiment was successfully conducted. With the agreement of the government, it transformed into an independent juridical person after a few years, which is known as the Grameen Bank. The achievement of microcredit has helped a variety of people to get rid of poverty. Therefore, Yunus and Grameen Bank received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Grameen represents village in Bengali. The red upward arrow in the sign stands for the revolution against traditional bank and poverty, while green symbolizes Bangladesh and the white sides represents the overall transparent operation. The vision of Grameen Bank is to assist the poor to escape from poverty and carry out universal education by providing comprehensive financial services, hoping that in the near future, poverty will become an abstract concept in museums. To achieve this goal, they need to make sure that Grameen Bank will not be influenced by capitalism and move towards traditional banks. 75% of Grameen Bank's equity is composed of its members, namely those poor borrowers. That's right, the borrowers can only be the poor. The other 25% is the Bangladeshi government, who is responsible for ensuring that the bank operates smoothly. In addition, 97% of the members in the bank are female. That's basically because women's status is generally low. They can only engage in low-output work at home in Bangladeshi society. However, Grameen Bank helps them to reach a certain degree of financial independence. In the long run, it promotes women's social status as a whole and therefore becomes popular among women. But in such conservative traditional society, how did Grameen Bank go deep into the countryside? All of this attributes to its organization structure that links closely to the locals. Generally speaking, when someone needs to borrow money, he or she firstly has to gather 5 people as a group, and they have to elect a chairman and a secretary among them. After a certain period of time, they have to re-elect. As a team, they need to supervise and take care of each other in terms of their repayment situation. Furthermore, a center is made up of 6 to 10 groups. 60 to 80 centers set up a branch office. 8 to 12 branch offices form an area office, and 8 to 12 area offices set up a zonal office. Finally, the 40 zonal offices are then controlled by the head office in Dhaka. In this figure, we can understand the framework of Grameen Bank's organization structure. The organization structure is so tight that repayment rate is as high as 99.7% in Grameen Bank, which can be said to have subverted the idea that lending money to the poor is like spilled water that can't take back. Grameen Bank has a variety of loan products. To put it simply, it is like playing games that borrowers cultivate their credit from low to high step by step. During the process, they are able to improve their living standard, since only when the borrowers complete and repay the previous loan can they proceed with the new loan. And the loan products are in the order of basic loan, housing loan, higher education loan, new entrepreneurship loan, MEP loan, which stands for micro enterprise loan, as well as other special products like struggling member loans and center house loans. Among them, basic loans and housing loans are the most widely provided. Using basic loans, the amount of money people can borrow ranges from 30,000 to 40,000 taka, and a certain amount needs to be repaid every week. Overall, the interest rate is approximately 10%. The main purpose of basic loans is to improve their basic lives and run some small businesses such as weaving. One can apply for the housing loan 3 years after becoming a borrower. In housing loans, the quota can be up to 100,000 taka. It also needs to be repaid weekly, with generally about 8% interest rate, and its purpose is to improve living environment such as buying new beds or repairing their houses. Additionally, Grameen Bank also provides saving products. On the one hand, it helps the poor to build up the habit of saving money. On the other hand, the bank will have more funds to help those who are in need. At present, these are the saving products Grameen Bank offers: personal savings, fixed deposits, double in 9 years deposits, monthly profit schemes, Grameen pension schemes, loan insurance deposits, family deposits, and life insurance. There are so many different types, but if we look at them closely, we'll find out the main difference is whether the payment flow is stable or not. If the borrower's payment flow is quite unstable, sometimes big and sometimes small, then personal savings may be their best choice. Likewise, if the borrowers have an amount of money that they don't need for a long time, then double in 9 years deposits may be useful for them. Among those products, the most special two must be the loan insurance deposits and life insurance. For poor people, when facing sudden accidents, they have less capability to deal with it compared to the rich. Hence, loan insurance deposits play a key role. In this scheme, a certain amount of money can be paid in advance. Once the borrower dies for some reason, he or she can directly offset the loan. If the borrower finishes paying back the loan, the insurance premium will directly become personal savings. In life insurance, the borrower will pay some money in the first place. If he or she dies, his or her family can get a funeral fee of $25. Similarly, if the insurance contract is not activated, the premium paid will also directly go to the borrower's personal savings. The above is the general introduction to Grameen Bank. Before Grameen Bank exists, the poor people can only borrow money from loan sharks. As high as the 10% interest rate seems, it is much lower than borrowing from loan sharks. We can see from the formula by which Grameen Bank calculate the interest to know that the shorter the repaying time is, the less interest is needed to pay, which is how they encourage the poor to pay money back and also urge them to make good use of the money. When the poor has a certain amount of money, Grameen Bank also allows them to deposit money with a minimum of 3% and up to 7.5% interest rate so that the money can be reused to help others in need. Furthermore, even if someone is unable to pay the money back, Grameen Bank will do everything it can to make a humane and achievable repayment plan. After all, the purpose of Grameen Bank is to teach one how to fish by selling him or her fishing rods, so he or she can be self-reliant, instead of selling one fishing rod and trying to plunder all the fish he or she catches, like an ordinary bank. Nonetheless, in order to maintain such tight operation of Grameen Bank, it has indeed taken a considerable amount of manpower. Perhaps the capitalists feel disdain for this, but for certain people, they believe that earning money makes people happy, but helping others is super happy. And it's because of these disdainful people that our world can be happier, isn't it? After understanding the operation mode of Grameen Bank, we visited a village in Sadipur to thoroughly understand the actual operation of Grameen Bank and the real voice of the borrowers through witness and face-to-face interviews. First of all, each group needs to arrive at the center to take part in the regular meeting at the appointed time. During the regular meeting, everyone has to read the 16 decisions of the Grameen Bank. The regulations are some basic living criteria, and through practicing these simple rules, the borrowers can quickly establish a direction for improving the living standards. After reading out, each group starts to report their current situation in the group, and takes out the personal account book that everyone has at the same time. Then, they begin to reconcile and pay the weekly repayment. Due to the fact that computers are not common in the countryside, they use handwritten account books. So, even though the data of Grameen Bank has been fully digitized, when it comes to the clients, it is still based on handwritten paper reconciliation. And because of our visit, in addition to the above-mentioned daily routines, Golem from the Grameen Bank also acted as a bridge between us and the villagers, allowing us to break through the language barrier and communicate with them. Through Golem, we could roughly understand some basic introductions of this village. Firstly, the amount of money the poor borrowed ranges from 50,000 taka to 200,000 taka. The purpose of microloans is mostly doing small businesses, such as operating small stores to sell handmade items or popcorn. Larger loans are used to invest in larger activities such as stock farming, fishing, etc. Secondly, unlike in the past, the women in the village no longer give birth to countless babies. Most families have less than 2 children. Only 3 households have more than 4 children. Thirdly, the entire village has 4 water purifiers to provide everyone with clean drinking water. Fourthly, every household has clean modern sanitary toilets. And lastly, every school-aged child goes to school. In addition, we also asked the women some changes that have been made to the village since the intervention of Grameen Bank. The first thing is child marriage. In the past, women used to get married at the age of 13 and 14, but now they tend to get engaged after 18. The second thing is that it is basically impossible for women in the previous generation to have a meal with their husbands in the same space at the same time, but now they can. Finally, the women in the last generation were unable to choose their own clothes and the items they needed, but now they are more than free to choose whatever accessories they want. All of this attribute to Grameen Bank, which allows these women to achieve financial independence through these loans. Women no longer need to be attached to men and therefore have more decision-making power and status. After learning about the women's situation, we asked Golem if he could arrange some simple interviews with the borrowers for us. Understanding our needs, Golem then found 2 volunteers, respectively Agoda and Hamida. Agoda joined Grameen Bank in 1987. Before that, her family was extremely poor. The house was not equipped with the basic function of being a shelter from the wind and rain, not to mention beds. Agoda and her family could only sleep on the floor. Normally, she worked as a helper in different houses. The meager salary she earned was not enough to maintain the basic life. At that time, there were only 4 members in her family. In addition to Agoda and her husband, they have 2 daughters, but both died at an early age. Due to the lack of money, she did not have any strength to deal with the sadness, though. Speaking of this, Agoda couldn't hold back her tears. Wiping her tears off her cheek, Agoda went on mentioning that she had borrowed 2,000 taka from Grameen Bank for small businesses and simple farming, and then paid back 25 taka by selling crops every week. After paying off the first loan, Agoda borrowed 300,000 taka to run a bigger business. Hamida is a special one in the village. She joined Grameen Bank 12 years ago and was not that poor. At that time, the basic quality of life was actually affordable for her. Her original intention was to save some money. Afterwards, because of her desire for a better life, she borrowed 5,000 taka from Grameen Bank for some simple farming. Her daughter Shornak is 22 years old and was married 4 years ago, who already has a daughter. Her son-in-law works at a Korean company in Dhaka. After interviewing Hamida, she hospitably invited us to enter her house. It was actually difficult for us to imagine that they lived in a very harsh life 10 years ago because they have soft-looking beds, advanced LCD TVs, modern refrigerators, spacious and clean bathrooms, and even complete utensils. In addition, for the locals, the round pot is a necessity for the family diners, and we can roughly infer the economic status of the household from the number of round pots in the house. After visiting Hamida's house, Golem showed us around the village. We took a tour to a local weaving factory, which has only 2 employees. Because of the loan from Grameen Bank, which allows them to purchase suitable equipment and weave Bangladeshi women's traditional costume, shari. Although each product needs to take 1 to 2 weeks, and the income is only about 2,000 to 3,000 taka. But as far as the local is concerned, this is actually a pretty good income. After visiting the village, we said goodbye to the villagers and headed for the branch office by car. The branch office is a 2-story building. In order to understand the local life better and establish a close connection with the villagers, the accommodation of the branch chief Nasser is located on the 2nd floor. And through Golem, we had an interview with Nasser here. During the visit, we learned that Nasser had been working at this branch for 3 years, and he has also been in other branches for 15 years before. He graduated from Department of Accounting. There are currently 9 people working at this branch, which manages 66 centers in 34 villages at the same time. Nasser's daily work is to arrive at the office at 7:30 in the morning to pick up documents and head for the village to collect the accounts. Afterwards, he goes to each center to host a meeting and returns to the branch at noon to check the cash. In the afternoon, he will issue new loans for the borrowers. The branch itself serves about 5,000 borrowers. For him, he chooses this job because helping others not only makes him happy, but also allows him to connect with the place and grow together. In order to avoid unfairness in loans, Grameen Bank accepts only fresh graduates. They must leave their hometown and work in other villages. In this way, they can truly treat all borrowers equally. Even though Nasser is already a branch manager, many local borrowers have joined Grameen Bank much earlier than he. Therefore, he always stays humble and learns from the various borrowers because he knows that only communicating with true heart can learn and understand their lives and finally improve them. After interviewing Nasser, we visited the branch office casually, trying to establish some kind of connection with this place because we may know how bad the roads in Bangladesh are. We may know how turbid the air in Bangladesh is. We may know how poor the people of Bangladesh are. We may know how bad sanitation in Bangladesh is. But at the same time, we know how much its people love this land. There are still lots of people making every effort to make Bangladesh a better place. In the end, with a view to ensure the harvest of our journey, Dr. Yunus made himself available to meet us and answer our questions in person.
The borrowers are the owners of the bank. So when the bank makes the profit, they get the profit back to them as dividends. So it's a full circle. This bank is not something, an abstract thing that accumulates all the money somewhere. It's not like that. It's a bank makes the profit from its operation, and as a shareholder, because everybody is a shareholder, they get the dividend from the bank. It's always a mixed thing. It's nothing straight. You're always kind of swinging back and forth something. You don't know yet what the result is. But in my case, it was good that it's a very concrete thing. I wanted to see that the person is not going back to the loan shark. So I give the money in the beginning, whatever money she intended to borrow from the loan shark. So her demand is met, she's happy, and she didn't have to go to loan shark. So that made me happy, that at least I protected one person from a loan shark. So that's what excited me, inspired me. Whether in future that exactly happened, I don't know. Maybe Grameen Bank said, okay, you're a first-time borrower, I can give you only this amount of money. I cannot go you. She wanted, say, $50, you gave her $30. Because if that $50 is too much for her, she cannot handle. But she needed $50. But that's a compromise. I can give you $30. See if you can start with that. If you can continue to pay me back, I'll give you more. Next round. So instead of giving up, she said, okay, I'll start at $30 and try to find out other $20 to meet my needs and so on and so forth. So they were, it was not 100% right, but some. But at least I know now I'm in a circle, I can get more and more money as I go. So we are not saying that the sky's the limit, you can take any money you want. You can't do that in this system. So to that extent, it is less effective. But this is where our challenges come. Can we go to the next stage? Can we give her whatever she wants? Under what circumstances? Can we have to not keep the position of the bank so that it covers its cost. And at the same time, I get the money, I give the money what she wants. So that's it, that has to the next step of solution. So in your first round, you didn't solve all the problems. You solved some problems. Gradually, your effort is to make other problems. So technology comes, improvement comes, cost reduces, and then you can do the things which you couldn't do before. So those are the thing improvements either through technology or smarter way of doing the business itself comes, idea comes, how to handle that. So this is how progress is beginning. But you don't lose your hope. You continue. So it's not that you have reached the ultimate, but you're on the way to the ultimate. And your ultimate also shifts. You become more courageous. You shift your ultimate to further down, to make things do which you didn't do before, because now you're more brave. You want to do that.
看小朋友随便生一个眼睛那么大颗，真是真的
很可爱，耶！this 也可以的。
不要叫他比，这个。
大家咯，大家聽下先嘅。